High above Earth, in the vast expanse of space where silence reigns supreme, two remarkable satellites have been quietly performing one of humanity's most crucial tasks. These technological marvels, known as the Orbiting Carbon Observatory missions, or OCO2 and OCO3, have been our vigilant guardians, constantly monitoring the invisible yet vital flow of carbon dioxide across our planet's atmosphere. For years, they have served as our eyes in the sky, providing scientists, farmers, and policymakers with invaluable data about the greenhouse gases that shape our climate's future. Yet now, these silent sentinels face an unexpected threat. Not from the harsh environment of space, but from political decisions made right here on Earth. The story begins in the corridors of power in Washington, where the Trump administration has asked NASA staffers to draw up plans to end at least 2 satellite missions that measure carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. This directive has sent ripples of concern throughout the scientific community, as researchers suddenly find themselves grappling with the possibility of losing these essential tools. The satellites in question are not merely expensive pieces of technology floating in orbit, but rather sophisticated instruments that have become indispensable to our understanding of climate change and its impacts on agriculture, ecosystems, and human society. To understand the magnitude of this potential loss, one must first appreciate what these satellites actually do. Carbon dioxide, an invisible gas that makes up only a tiny fraction of our atmosphere, plays an outsized role in determining Earth's climate. When we burn fossil fuels, cut down forests, or engage in various industrial activities, we release carbon dioxide into the atmosphere, where it acts like a blanket, trapping heat and gradually warming our planet. The OCO missions use incredibly precise instruments to measure the concentration of this gas as it moves around the globe, creating detailed maps that show exactly where carbon dioxide is being released and where it is being absorbed by forests, oceans, and other natural systems. The implications of shutting down these missions extend far beyond the realm of academic research. Farmers across North America, including those in Canada, have come to rely on the data from these satellites to make critical decisions about their crops. The satellites can detect how plants are responding to changing atmospheric conditions, helping agricultural experts understand which regions might face drought, where crop yields might be affected by changing carbon dioxide levels, and how climate patterns are shifting over time. This information is not merely interesting from a scientific perspective. It is essential for food security and agricultural planning in an era of unprecedented environmental change. The scientific community has watched with growing alarm as senior NASA officials have continued to secretly direct NASA employees to draw up plans to end at least 2 major satellites, missions specifically designed to monitor global carbon dioxide. This directive has created an atmosphere of uncertainty and concern among researchers who have built their careers in research programs around the steady stream of data from these orbital observatories. The potential shutdown represents more than just a loss of information. It signifies a fundamental shift in how the United States approaches climate science and environmental monitoring. What makes this situation particularly troubling for the international scientific community is the collaborative nature of climate research. The data from NASA's carbon monitoring satellites is shared freely with researchers around the world, including those in Canada who are working to understand how climate change is affecting everything from Arctic ice melt to prairie agriculture. Canadian scientists have integrated this satellite data into their own research programs, using it to track carbon emissions from oil sands operations, monitor forest carbon storage, and understand how the country's vast wilderness areas are responding to a changing climate. The sudden loss of this data stream would create significant gaps in ongoing research projects and long-term monitoring programs. The timing of this potential shutdown is particularly concerning given the current state of global climate research. Scientists are racing to understand the complex feedback loops and tipping points that could accelerate climate change beyond our current predictions. The satellite data has been crucial in identifying unexpected sources of carbon emissions, such as permafrost thaw in the Arctic, and in verifying whether countries are meeting their commitments under international climate agreements. Without this continuous monitoring, researchers would be left to work with incomplete information at a time when precision and accuracy are more important than ever. The economic implications of shutting down these satellite missions extend well beyond the immediate cost savings that might be achieved. The agricultural sector, which contributes billions of dollars to both the American and Canadian economies, relies heavily on accurate climate and atmospheric data to make informed decisions about planting, irrigation, and harvest timing. Insurance companies use satellite-derived climate data to assess risks and set premiums for agricultural policies. Energy companies, ironically including oil and gas firms, have found the carbon monitoring data useful for their own operations and environmental compliance efforts. The loss of this information could have cascading effects throughout multiple sectors of the economy. From a technological standpoint, the OCO missions represent years of engineering, innovation, and scientific development. These satellites are equipped with spectrometers, so sensitive that they can detect variations in carbon dioxide concentrations of just a few parts per million from hundreds of miles above Earth's surface. The instruments can distinguish between carbon dioxide molecules and other atmospheric gases with remarkable precision, and they can track how these gases move through the atmosphere over time. This technology did not develop overnight. It represents decades of research and development, and the knowledge gained from operating these missions has informed the design of future climate monitoring systems. The international ramifications of this decision cannot be understated. Climate change is fundamentally a global problem that requires international cooperation and data sharing to address effectively. The United States has long been a leader in Earth observation technology, and other countries have come to depend on American satellite data to supplement their own monitoring capabilities. If the OCO missions are terminated, it would create a significant gap in the global climate monitoring network. At a time when many countries are working to implement the Paris Climate Agreement and track their progress toward emission reduction goals, this could undermine international efforts to coordinate climate action and could damage America's reputation as a leader in environmental science. The human stories behind this potential shutdown are equally compelling. Graduate students who have spent years learning to work with OCO data might find their thesis projects suddenly without a data source. Early career researchers who have built their expertise around satellite-based carbon monitoring could face uncertain career prospects. Farmers who have integrated satellite-derived information into their decision-making processes might find themselves operating with less reliable information about growing conditions and climate trends. Indigenous communities in Canada and Alaska, who have been working with scientists to understand how climate change is affecting their traditional ways of life, could lose access to crucial data about environmental changes in their territories. The broader context of this decision reflects deeper tensions about the role of government in environmental monitoring and climate research. Supporters of the shutdown argue that such missions represent unnecessary government spending and that private companies or other organizations should take over these responsibilities. However, critics point out that the long-term, consistent monitoring required for climate research is precisely the type of public good that government agencies are uniquely positioned to provide. Private companies typically focus on shorter-term, profit-driven objectives, while universities often lack the resources for such large-scale, long-duration projects. Environmental advocates and scientists have mobilized quickly to oppose the potential shutdown, organizing letter-writing campaigns, congressional briefings, and public demonstrations to highlight the importance of continued carbon monitoring. They argue that ending these missions would be penny-wise, but pound-foolish, saving relatively small amounts of money in the short term, while potentially costing much more in the long term through reduced agricultural productivity, increased climate-related disasters, and missed opportunities for carbon reduction. The scientific community has emphasized that climate monitoring is not a luxury, but a necessity, comparable to weather forecasting or earthquake monitoring in its importance for public safety and economic planning. As this story continues to unfold, the stakes could not be higher. The decision about whether to maintain or terminate the satellite missions will send a powerful signal about America's commitment to understanding and addressing climate change. It will affect not only the immediate availability of carbon monitoring data, but also the long-term trajectory of climate research and international cooperation on environmental issues. The silent satellites continue their orbital dance above our heads, faithfully collecting data with each passover. The Earth's surface, unaware that their future hangs in the balance of political decisions being made far below. Whether they will continue their vital mission or fall silent forever remains to be seen. But their potential loss would represent a significant setback in humanity's efforts to understand and protect our changing planet. The reverberations of this decision will likely be felt for years to come, affecting everything from agricultural planning in the Canadian prairies to climate research in universities around the world. As scientists, policymakers, and citizens grapple with this potential loss, The story of the OCO missions serves as a reminder of how interconnected our modern world has become, and how scientific knowledge that seems abstract and distant can have very real and immediate impacts on our daily lives. The satellites may be silent in the vacuum of space, but their potential shutdown has created a very loud debate about priorities, values, and the future of environmental science in an uncertain world. As we continue to follow this developing story and its impact on climate research worldwide, your engagement and awareness become crucial in understanding these complex environmental and political issues. The future of our planet's monitoring systems, and indeed our ability to track and respond to climate change, may well depend on public understanding and support for continued scientific research. We encourage you to stay informed, share your thoughts in the comments below, and join the conversation about the role of science in shaping our environmental policies. If this deep dive into the intersection of politics, science, and environmental policy has sparked your interest, please consider subscribing to West is Best and hitting that notification bell to stay updated on the latest developments in climate science, environmental policy, and the ongoing efforts to understand our changing world. Share this video with friends, family, and colleagues who care about the future of our planet, because informed communities are the foundation of meaningful environmental action. Until next time, keep questioning, keep learning, and remember that every voice matters in the fight to protect our shared home.